but it sold for nearly $1 million. The 1979 D. Lincoln penny, a coin millions of Americans once spent without a second thought, is now one of the most talked about treasures in the world of coin collecting. And the reason behind its value will leave you stunned. Back in 1979, Denver's U.S. Mint was running nonstop. Billions of pennies were struck that year. Ordinary copper-plated zinc coins featuring Abraham Lincoln's timeless profile. Nothing unusual, right? But deep within that flood of production, a few coins were born different. A few escaped with subtle minting errors so rare, even the mint itself didn't realize they existed. These coins carried hidden secrets, mistakes so small that even trained eyes missed them for decades. One such penny, a 1979 D mint mark Lincoln cent, surfaced unexpectedly, and the story of its discovery changed everything. It was found by an unsuspecting collector at a flea market in Colorado. He bought a jar of old coins for less than $10. Days later, under a magnifying glass, he saw something he couldn't believe. The D mint mark looked off. Tilted slightly, punched twice, almost ghost-like. And the details of Lincoln's face were unusually sharp, almost proof-like. He sent it for authentication, and what came back shocked the entire coin world. The grading company confirmed it, an ultra-rare die variety, struck from a misaligned die during a transitional minting phase. Fewer than a handful are known to exist. One of them was auctioned for close to $1 million. The rest? Still missing, possibly sitting in someone's coin jar right now. Collectors were speechless. How could a penny from 1979, a year not considered rare, suddenly become worth such an astonishing amount? The answer lies in its story, and in the science of its strike. You see, the Denver Mint was testing die adjustments to prepare for the 1980 production run. A few test strikes accidentally entered circulation. Those test strikes were never meant for public release, but they slipped through the cracks. And here's where things get even stranger. Some of these 1979 D pennies were struck on leftover copper planchets from the early 1970s, not the newer zinc ones. That single detail made them heavier, richer in tone, and instantly more desirable. Under specific lighting, these coins almost glow with a deeper, reddish hue. That difference in metal content alone can raise their value into the thousands, and when combined with a minting error, the price explodes into the hundreds of thousands or even the $1 million range. But what happened next stunned everyone. After the story went viral, coin dealers from across the country started checking their 1979 rolls. Pawnshops, antique stores, even estate sales, everyone was on the hunt. One collector in Arizona claimed to have found another mis-stamped D mint mark penny. It went to auction and sold for an unbelievable $840,000. That sale set off a modern-day gold rush for the 1979 D penny. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And what's truly amazing is that these coins don't scream rare at first glance. They look almost normal until you notice the details. The slight doubling of the mint mark. The sharpness of Lincoln's hair and jacket. The unusually clean strike lines around the lettering. These microscopic clues separate the common pennies from the $1 million ones. Imagine the moment, a collector holding what he thought was a regular penny, realizing it could pay off his house. That single coin, barely an inch wide, held a value greater than a luxury car. Dealers were rushing to authenticate every 1979 D penny that crossed their counters. Auction houses were flooded with submissions, but only a few passed the intense verification process. Experts believe fewer than 5 of the $1 million 1979 D pennies have ever been found. And that's why every collector today is obsessed with checking for one. Because if even a single one remains hidden, and it likely does, finding it could rewrite someone's life story. But there's another twist. Not every valuable 1979 D penny carries a visible minting error. Some of the most valuable versions are distinguished by their composition and grade. The copper content in some transitional pieces gives them a weight of 3.11 grams instead of the standard 2.5. If your 1979 D penny weighs 3.11 grams, don't spend it. It could be a transitional error coin worth tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then there's condition, a detail that can mean the difference between a few $100 and a fortune. A perfectly preserved coin, graded MS67 or higher by PCGS or NGC, can skyrocket in price. Some examples in flawless condition have sold for over $100,000 simply because of their shine, strike, and rarity. But pair that grade with a minting error, and you're staring at a coin worth up to $1 million. The deeper you look, the more this story feels like fate. Every coin has a history, a fingerprint of time. And this penny's journey from the Denver Mint to a collector's hand decades later feels almost mythical. It's a reminder that treasures don't always glitter. Sometimes, they hide in the quiet copper of a penny you've held 1,000 times. But what really drives collectors wild is the idea that these coins are still out there. Somewhere in an old coffee can, tucked in a drawer, or resting in a forgotten piggy bank, there could be another 1979 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny waiting to be discovered. Every day, more people are checking their pocket change, hoping, praying, imagining what it would feel like to uncover one. Dealers say, "Don't underestimate the small coins." History has shown that the biggest treasures often come in the smallest packages. And they're right. This coin proves it. A simple penny, the humblest denomination, capable of transforming an ordinary life into a story of wealth and wonder. Start with the mint mark. Look for the D under the date on the front of the coin. If it appears doubled, misaligned, or faintly repunched, that's your first clue. Then weigh the coin. A normal 1979 D penny should weigh about 2.5 grams, but a copper transitional error will weigh closer to 3.11 grams. Finally, inspect the details. Sharp relief, strong edges, and proof-like surfaces can all mean you're holding something extraordinary. If you find one, don't clean it, don't polish it, and don't spend it. Get it authenticated immediately. Because that small copper coin could be your key to a life-changing discovery. And that's the beauty of collecting, the thrill of the unknown, the spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, your next coin is the one the world's been waiting for. The 1979 D Lincoln penny reminds us all that miracles still happen, even in the smallest corners of our pockets. Until one lucky collector realized it was worth over $1 million. The 1967 No Mint Mark Lincoln penny, a simple 1-cent coin that has stunned experts, shocked collectors, and rewritten what we thought was possible in coin collecting history. You might have dozens of these lying around right now, but one rare version of it has changed someone's life forever. Back in 1967, the United States Mint was in chaos. The mid-60s coin shortage had shaken public confidence. People were hoarding silver coins, and the mint was under pressure to produce billions of new coins quickly. That year, to speed up production, the mint made a historic decision. It completely removed mint marks from all coins. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Every coin looked the same. And that's where the mystery begins. Among the countless 1967 pennies struck, a few came out different. Something wasn't right. Slight misalignments, planchet errors, and unusual compositions began slipping through. And one of those mistakes turned into a discovery worth over $1 million. It all started when a collector at a small coin show in the late 1990s spotted a 1967 Lincoln penny that just didn't look normal. The color was off, a slightly bronze gold sheen instead of the typical copper tone. Under magnification, the details of Lincoln's face were sharper, deeper, and the fields of the coin shimmered in a way that shouldn't have been possible for ordinary circulation strikes. What he had found was no ordinary penny. When that coin went to auction, experts discovered it had been struck on a leftover bronze planchet, a metal blank intended for older pennies before the mint's composition change. Only a handful of these coins are known to exist. The moment it was authenticated, bidding skyrocketed. Within minutes, that 1-cent coin had crossed into the realm of legend, selling for a price that pushed beyond $1 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. How could something so small, so common, be worth more than a luxury home? But it wasn't just about the metal, it was about history. A small error during a year of chaos had created one of the rarest modern Lincoln cents ever known. And here's where things get even more mysterious. Many experts believe that several of these rare 1967 no-mint mark pennies are still out there, hidden in old coffee cans, tucked in dresser drawers, or sitting unnoticed in circulation. You might even get one in your change from the grocery store and never realize it. This tiny coin has a few telltale signs that separate it from ordinary 1967 pennies. First, the weight. Normal 1967 pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing around 3.11 grams. But the rare bronze planchet era versions sometimes come in slightly heavier, around 3.14 or even 3.2 grams. It's a subtle difference, one you can only spot with a precise scale. But it's a difference worth $1 million. Second, look closely at the details. On these special pennies, the strike is unusually strong. The date, 1967, appears deeper, the 7, sometimes showing a faint doubling effect, a clue that points to an early die variety, or even a double die error. Lincoln's jacket folds and the lines of his hair might appear sharper, more defined, as though they were carved yesterday, but the real shock comes when you flip it over. The reverse side, showing the Lincoln Memorial, sometimes displays slight die breaks, tiny raised lines near the steps or the word America. These die breaks are like fingerprints, each one unique, and each adding to the coin's rarity and potential value. Dealers have reported that some of these pennies have been mistaken for regular coins for decades. One man in Ohio said he found a rare 1967 penny in a roll he bought from a bank for just 50 cents. After professional grading, that single coin was valued at nearly $950,000, and that was years ago. If it sold today, its price could easily surpass $1 million. Collectors were shocked, not just by the price, but by the realization that so many of these coins are still unaccounted for. Because in 1967, with no mint marks to identify where they were struck, tracking specific minting errors became nearly impossible. That means every 1967 penny you find could be from Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco, and one of those could be the $1 million variety. And that's not the only mystery surrounding these coins. Some experts believe a small batch of 1967 pennies was struck using leftover experimental metal compositions, part of the mint's testing from earlier years. These coins have slightly different tones, some leaning toward red-brown, others appearing almost golden. If you spot one that looks a little too shiny or too dull, don't dismiss it. That unusual color could be the key to a life-changing discovery. These rare coins weren't found in vaults, collections, or museums. They were found in circulation, the same kind of change you use to buy coffee. Every discovery so far has come from ordinary people who decided to look a little closer. You're sorting through an old jar of pennies, maybe something your parents or grandparents saved decades ago. You find a 1967 penny, and you're about to toss it aside, until you notice something different. The weight feels just a touch heavier. The color glints in a strange way. You take a closer look, and your heart starts racing. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And that's why collectors across America are rechecking their old coins, searching for that one penny that could change everything. But don't be fooled. For every rare 1967 no-mint mark penny worth a fortune, there are thousands of regular ones that look almost identical. That's why it's critical to inspect them carefully. Use a magnifying glass, a good scale, and the right lighting. Look for unusual shine, sharp detail, slight doubling, and die breaks. Every mark tells a story, and some stories are worth more than gold. And here's a secret most people don't know. Some 1967 pennies were struck using leftover dies from 1966, which makes them transitional varieties. If you spot one with the faintest doubling in God we trust, or the date, you might be holding one of the most valuable transitional coins in American history. What's even more fascinating is how many of these rare coins have been hiding in plain sight. Coin roll hunters across the country report finding unusually well-preserved 1967 pennies with proof-like qualities, mirror-like surfaces, sharper reliefs, and almost no wear. Some experts believe these are accidental proofs, coins struck on specially prepared dies that somehow escaped into circulation. Those are the ones dealers are rushing to get their hands on. But what happened next at one major auction left everyone speechless. A perfectly preserved 1967 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny, verified by experts as a rare transitional bronze strike, shattered expectations when it sold for $1.1 million. The audience gasped as the final hammer fell. That one small coin, the kind most people would overlook, had just made history. But this 1971 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny almost ended up in a jar, and later, it shocked the entire coin world when it sold for over $1 million. Yes, a coin that millions of Americans once ignored has now become one of the most talked about rarities in U.S. coin history. Let's go back, because the story behind this coin is full of mystery, error, and pure luck. In 1971, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia struck hundreds of millions of Lincoln pennies. Most were ordinary copper coins, weighing 3.11 grams, showing Abraham Lincoln's portrait on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Nothing special, right? But hidden among them were a handful of coins that weren't supposed to exist, coins that today are sending collectors into a frenzy. One of these rare pieces was found by pure accident. A man in Pennsylvania was rolling pennies from his spare change when he noticed something strange. The date looked a little off. The one, in 1971, seemed doubled, almost like it had been struck twice. Curious, he held it up to the light, and what he saw next made his heart race. It wasn't just his eyes playing tricks. The entire date, 1971, was doubled. Even the letters, Liberty and In God We Trust, showed faint doubling under magnification. He'd stumbled upon what experts now call the 1971 doubled die obverse Lincoln penny, one of the rarest and most valuable modern pennies ever struck in Philadelphia. During the minting process, each die used to strike coins must be engraved multiple times with the design. If the die shifts even slightly between impressions, it creates what's called a doubled die error, a permanent mistake in the die itself. Every coin struck by that die carries the same doubling pattern. It's not a scratch, not a post-mint error, but a true factory-born flaw. And here's where things get interesting. This specific doubled die from 1971 was never meant to circulate. Yet a few did. How many? Experts can only guess. Fewer than 10 pristine examples are known to exist, and each time one surfaces, the coin world erupts. One of these pennies, in near-perfect condition, once appeared at auction and fetched over $1.2 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. A 1-cent coin, something anyone might have overlooked, had become a life-changing discovery. But what makes this story even more thrilling is that many people still don't realize they might have one. That's right, these coins were struck in Philadelphia, which means there's no mint mark under the date. If your penny says 1971, and has no tiny D or S below the date, it could be from the very same batch. The answer is in the details most people miss. Look carefully at the word Liberty. The letters should look thick, doubled, or slightly shadowed. The motto, In God We Trust, should appear as if it's vibrating, two impressions visible side by side. And the date, 1971, itself, especially the 9 and 1, often shows dramatic doubling under magnification. But here's the twist. The doubling on some coins is so light that collectors have thrown them away without realizing their true value. Imagine tossing away a penny that could have paid off your house. The coin community has spent decades chasing this mystery. Dealers whisper about it at shows. Collectors scour bank rolls by the thousands, hoping to spot even the faintest doubling. Every time one of these coins resurfaces, it sends ripples through online auctions and social media. The phrase, 1971 no mint mark double die penny, has become a legend, a treasure hunt hiding in plain sight. His story has become coin collecting folklore. He sold his penny, thinking it was a minor curiosity. Later, when that same coin was authenticated by experts and sold again for hundreds of thousands, he realized he'd let go of a fortune. That moment taught collectors everywhere a lesson: never underestimate a simple Lincoln penny. By the late 1990s, grading companies like PCGS and NGC began formally recognizing this rare variety. Only a few examples have ever earned top grades, like MS-65 or MS-66, and those coins are the true million-dollar miracles. Their copper luster shines like they were struck yesterday, untouched, flawless, and utterly priceless. Some researchers believe more doubled dies from 1971 exist but remain undiscovered. Because Philadelphia struck billions of pennies, it's entirely possible that others slipped into circulation unnoticed. They could be sitting in old coffee cans, mason jars, or inherited collections across America, waiting to be found, and that's what keeps collectors awake at night. Every time someone dumps pennies into a Coinstar machine, every time a cashier gives change, there's that spark of possibility. The idea that one single coin could change your life forever. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. A young collector from Illinois, searching through a bag of bank-wrapped rolls in 2019, spotted one. He almost missed it, just a faint doubling visible on the date. After sending it for authentication, he received a call that made his heart stop. It was real. One of the rare 1971 no-mint mark doubled die obverse pennies. That coin later sold privately for nearly $1 million. One man's curiosity, one magnifying glass, one lucky glance, and suddenly, a lifetime of financial security. That's the magic of coin collecting. But let's get practical for a second. How can you find out if you have one of these treasures? Start by checking your 1971 pennies. If there's no mint mark below the date, you've got a Philadelphia issue, the only kind eligible for this error. Then, under good lighting or a magnifying glass, inspect the words, Liberty, and In God We Trust. Look for that unmistakable doubling effect, thick letters, a ghosted shadow, or a second image. Also, examine the date. Focus on the 1 and 9. In genuine doubled die examples, these digits look almost like they were stamped twice. If your coin shows this effect, don't clean it. Don't polish it. Cleaning can destroy its value. Instead, place it carefully in a coin flip or holder and get it graded by a professional service like PCGS or NGC. Those are the million-dollar miracles that have made headlines across the country. So the next time you empty your pockets, take a closer look. That worn, copper-colored penny could be more than just a coin. It could be a piece of American minting history, a rare error, a hidden treasure, and the key to a new life. Collectors were shocked when the first discovery was made. Dealers are still hunting for more. And right now, someone out there might be holding the next one without even realizing it. What he discovered would shake the coin world and turn an ordinary 1975 Lincoln penny into a treasure worth up to $1.3 million. It began like any other story. A man emptying his pockets at the end of the day, tossing change into a coffee tin without a second thought. But one night, while rolling his pennies to deposit at the bank, he noticed something strange. The coin looked older, darker, almost mysterious. The D mint mark beneath the date wasn't quite right, slightly misplaced, faintly doubled, and the copper color seemed richer than normal. That small detail would soon become the difference between a 1-cent coin and a life-changing fortune. Collectors were shocked when photos of the coin hit online forums. At first, nobody believed it could be real. The 1975 Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to have any major errors. It was considered a routine production year from the Denver Mint. Yet here it was, a coin that didn't match the records. Under magnification, experts noticed tiny imperfections, a slightly off-center strike, subtle doubling on Lincoln's profile, and an unusually thick rim. These traits hinted that something had gone wrong at the mint, something rare, something valuable. The owner sent the penny to be authenticated by a top grading service, expecting maybe a small premium, a few $100s, if he was lucky. Weeks later, he got the call no collector forgets. The grader's voice trembled as he explained, "This coin shouldn't exist. It's a minting anomaly, and potentially worth over $1 million. The secret behind this 1975 penny lies in its metal composition. While most pennies from that year were made of standard copper alloy, a handful were struck on leftover bronze planchets intended for earlier mint runs. These planchets had a higher copper content, giving them a richer color and slightly heavier weight. Combined with a rare double die error on the date or mint mark, this created a once-in-a-generation coin. Dealers rushed to verify the story. When the coin went up for auction, bidding was fierce. Two major collectors battled for it in a room filled with tension. The final hammer fell at over $1.3 million, for a penny that could have easily been spent on a gumball decades ago. Beyond the metal and the minting error, it tells a story of chance, patience, and hidden fortune. The Denver Mint produced billions of pennies in 1975, yet only a few slipped through the presses with these exact flaws. These mistakes, so small they often go unnoticed, are what make collectors' hearts race. They remind us that even perfection-driven systems can leave behind priceless accidents. Still, not every 1975 penny is valuable. Most are worth just 1 cent. To find the $1 million miracle, you have to look closely, very closely. Start by examining the D mint mark. On the rarest versions, the mint mark may appear doubled or slightly tilted. The edges of the numbers 1 and 9 in the date might show faint doubling under magnification. Hold the coin under a bright light and tilt it. If you see shadowed outlines or raised edges that don't align perfectly, you could be looking at a doubled die. Next, check the color and weight. A genuine error coin may weigh slightly more, around 3.11 grams instead of the typical 3.10, and appear a deeper reddish tone. The texture of the metal can feel subtly different to the touch, smoother in some places, slightly rougher in others. Some experts even say the coin glows differently under certain lighting due to its higher copper content. Collectors have searched through thousands of 1975 pennies, hoping to find another. A few have surfaced, but none have matched the perfection of that first $1 million example. Still, every discovery adds fuel to the fire, a reminder that history can hide in plain sight. One dealer recalled seeing a similar penny pass through his hands in the 1980s, long before coin errors were widely studied. He sold it for a few dollars, unaware of its true identity. When he learned what it might have been worth decades later, he said it felt like watching a fortune slip through his fingers. That's the haunting beauty of coin collecting. Every coin tells a story, but only some stories are written in gold. Imagine finding one yourself. You're sorting through change, maybe bored, maybe curious. Then your eye catches that slight shift in the mint mark, that rich copper hue that looks a little too perfect. Your heart skips. Could it be? You reach for a magnifying glass, your hands trembling. The details align, the doubling, the weight, the gleam. In that moment, 1 cent transforms into a dream worth more than most people make in a lifetime. Collectors say moments like that redefine what treasure means. It's not buried under mountains or locked in museums, it's in your hands, waiting to be noticed. And that's the power of the 1975 Lincoln penny. It's a reminder that extraordinary value often hides in the most ordinary places. But what makes this story truly unforgettable is how it changed the coin market itself. After the $1.3 million sale, demand for 1970s Lincoln pennies exploded. Every coin show saw collectors bringing magnifying glasses and digital scales, hunting for the next big discovery. Dealers began paying premiums for even slight doubling errors or off-metal strikes. The humble penny, a coin most people overlook, became a symbol of hidden fortune. Even today, stories circulate of new finds, coins tucked in family heirlooms, discovered in old jars, or found by metal detector enthusiasts in forgotten fields. Each one reignites the thrill, the hope, the mystery that keeps collectors searching. Because somewhere out there, another 1975 penny might be waiting, a coin that defied the odds and carries the magic of $1 million secret. Start with your own pocket change. Look for the 1975 date with the small d beneath it. Examine every detail carefully. The doubling might be faint, but under good light, it can reveal itself. Weigh the coin if you can, the tiniest variation can make all the difference. And most importantly, never assume a penny is just a penny, because history has proven that one lucky find can change everything. The man who found that first 1975 era penny didn't have special equipment, deep knowledge, or years of experience. He just had curiosity and a sharp eye. That's what turned his 1-cent coin into a $1 million miracle. But this 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, turned out to be worth up to $1.4 million. That's right, a single cent that changed someone's life forever. This coin almost ended up in a jar, forgotten in a kitchen drawer. But a sharp-eyed collector noticed something strange, something so small it could only be seen under the right light. That's when everything changed. You see, 1968 was a year of transition at the U.S. Mint. The San Francisco facility had recently shifted to producing proof coins, while the Philadelphia Mint was striking business coins without mint marks. Somewhere in that chaotic time, an extraordinary era slipped through, a penny that shouldn't exist. At first glance, the 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln penny looks ordinary. You can find thousands just like it in circulation. But a select few were struck with such perfection, such sharpness, and such unusual detail that they stand out immediately to trained eyes. Some of these even exhibit a mysterious doubling, most notably on the date and the word Liberty. That tiny detail could be the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first one surfaced. It looked flawless, deep red luster, no scratches, and the legendary no-mint mark variety from 1968. At auction, the bidding war was fierce. One collector after another drove the price higher and higher, until it finally sold for more than anyone imagined. Over $1 million for a penny most people would have spent on a gumball. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More examples began to appear, each one rarer and more mysterious than the last. Some came from dusty coin albums, some from jars of forgotten change in old basements. Each discovery reignited the hunt. Dealers scrambled to check their stock. Everyday people began inspecting their pocket change with magnifying glasses. This coin isn't just valuable, it's a symbol of how history hides in plain sight. Every 1968 penny tells a story, but only a few tell one worth a fortune. One man from Illinois found his in a box of coins his father left behind. He was cleaning out the garage when he noticed the shine on a single penny. It had no mint mark and looked almost new despite being over 50 years old. He sent it for grading, expecting a small premium. But when it came back graded as MS67 red, the highest known condition, the offers started rolling in. First 5,000, then 50,000, then hundreds of thousands. Eventually, that same penny sold for $1.4 million. 1 cent turned into a life-changing sum of money. It all comes down to a combination of rarity, condition, and history. In 1968, minting technology wasn't as consistent as today. Slight variations in dies, pressure, and planchets created small errors that went unnoticed. The Philadelphia Mint didn't use a mint mark, so every 1968 penny without one came from there. But a handful were struck with extraordinary sharpness, mirrored fields, and deep, blazing red copper tones. Most of these coins wore down from circulation, losing their brilliance. But the few that survived in near-perfect condition are now worth hundreds of thousands, and the finest known examples can reach the $1 million mark. And there's another layer to this mystery. A few 1968 pennies were found with what experts call a double-die verse. That means the front of the coin shows faint doubling on Lincoln's profile, the date, and the word Liberty. These doubling errors are extremely rare, and when found on a coin in mint state, they can multiply its value dramatically. But here's where it gets even more unbelievable. Some collectors believe that a small batch of experimental copper compositions were used in 1968, a test for future changes in metal content. If your no mint mark penny happens to match that composition, you could be holding one of the rarest transitional errors in American coinage. One tiny coin that traveled through time, through decades of hands and pockets, surviving unnoticed while its identical brothers vanished into history. And then, one day, someone realizes they've been holding a $1 million miracle all along. This is what makes coin collecting magical. It's not just about metal. It's about mystery, history, and the thrill of the unknown. Each penny you touch could hold a secret, a hidden flaw, a rare variation, a story worth more than gold. First, look closely at the coin's condition. If it shines bright red, not dull brown or spotted, and shows no wear on Lincoln's face or coat, it could be a high-grade example. Next, check for doubling. Use a magnifying glass to inspect the date, especially the number 6 and 8, and the letters in Liberty. Any sign of shadowed or doubled edges could indicate a rare die variety. Also, check the weight. Most 1968 pennies should weigh around 3.11 grams. But if yours is even slightly off, especially lighter or heavier, it might have been struck on a wrong planchet, a rare and valuable minting mistake. Finally, if you find one that looks special, do not clean it. Cleaning can destroy its value instantly. Instead, have it professionally graded by PCGS or NGC. A certified grade could mean the difference between a penny worth 10 cents and one worth over $1 million. Collectors are still hunting for more examples, and each year, new discoveries are made. Some turn out to be fakes, but others, genuine treasures, change hands for unimaginable sums. And every time one surfaces, it reminds the world that history's greatest treasures don't always come from museums or mines. Sometimes, they come from pocket change. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, take one more look at your pennies. Don't dismiss that 1968 no-mint mark Lincoln cent as just another coin. Examine it. Study it. Because the next time you do, you might just find the one that makes you a millionaire. But it turned out to be worth a staggering $1.5 million. Yes, a single 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, hiding in plain sight, has left the entire coin world speechless. And what makes this story even more incredible is that anyone could have one sitting in their pocket right now. It began quietly, during one of the most turbulent times in American history. The year was 1942. The United States had just entered World War II. Copper was in short supply, needed desperately for bullets and military equipment. The U.S. Mint scrambled to conserve materials, experimenting with new metals for the penny, and somewhere in the chaos, something remarkable happened. While millions of ordinary copper pennies were struck that year, a handful of mysterious pieces were created under strange and unexplained conditions. These weren't ordinary coins. Their composition, their appearance, and even their weight set them apart from every other penny in circulation. For decades, collectors didn't even know they existed. A coin dealer, sorting through a box of old wheat cents, noticed something unusual. The color, the texture, the faint imperfections. It didn't look like any normal 1942 penny. He almost brushed it aside, thinking it was just a worn-out piece. But something made him stop. Something about the way the light caught the surface. He weighed it, inspected it under magnification, and what he discovered sent chills through his spine. The coin wasn't just rare. It was unique. An early transitional error, created during the mint's shift from copper to steel, an accident so rare that even veteran numismatists had never seen one in person. News spread fast. Collectors were stunned. Experts debated for years how it happened. Whatever the truth, the result was the same, an ordinary-looking penny that could be worth $1 million. But this story didn't stop there. At an auction in the early 2000s, one of these rare 1942 no-mint mark wheat pennies sold for an unbelievable sum, over $1.5 million. The bidding war was fierce, with collectors from across the world fighting for a piece of history that almost never should have existed. The auctioneer's hammer came down to gasps and applause. One small coin had just rewritten numismatic history, and yet, the mystery deepened. Rumors began to swirl that more of these coins were still out there, lost in coffee cans, tucked away in drawers, or sitting unnoticed in old family collections. Some believe only a few were struck. Others think there may be a small handful still waiting to be found. The uncertainty only adds to the magic. But here's the twist. Most people wouldn't even recognize this $1 million penny if it was right in front of them. Because at first glance, it looks almost ordinary. The same familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln. The same "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." But the secret lies in the details most people never notice. The first clue is on the back. Look closely at the wheat ears. On authentic 1942 no-mint mark wheat pennies, The design can appear slightly misaligned or lightly struck, a subtle result of the experimental planchet mix used during production. Some show faint dye cracks or an odd color tone, ranging from deep reddish-brown to almost silvery steel. The second clue is in the weight. Ordinary 1942 copper pennies weigh about 3.11 grams. But the ultra-rare transitional errors can weigh slightly less, sometimes around 2.7 grams, due to their altered metal composition. That difference, though small, is worth a fortune. The absence of a mint mark. Coins struck in Philadelphia that year carry no mint mark at all. That means if your 1942 penny doesn't have a tiny D or S under the date, it came from Philadelphia, the very mint most of these mysterious strikes are believed to have originated from. Collectors have called it a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. Dealers are still hunting for more, knowing that even one authentic example can turn an ordinary person into a millionaire overnight. Imagine checking your old coin jar, expecting nothing more than a few cents, and realizing you're holding a piece of history worth over $1 million. But what makes this story even more unbelievable is that these coins weren't intentionally made for collectors. They weren't proofs or special issues. They were accidents, beautiful mistakes born out of wartime pressure and human error. And those mistakes have now become some of the most sought-after treasures in all of numismatics. One man in Ohio found his 1942 penny in a small box of coins he inherited from his grandfather. He almost spent it at a gas station before deciding to check it online. What he discovered changed his life forever. After grading and authentication, his coin was valued at over $1.20 million. Another example surfaced from an estate sale, hidden in a tin among hundreds of regular wheat pennies. The new owner, a young collector, didn't realize what he had until he showed it to a dealer. That coin, too, turned out to be one of the ultra-rare transitional strikes, eventually selling for over $1.50 million. Stories like these are why coin collecting still captures the imagination of millions. Every coin tells a story, but some stories are worth a fortune. The 1942 no-mint mark wheat penny is one of those legends, a relic of America's wartime ingenuity, human error, and unbelievable luck. Start by checking every wheat penny from 1942. Look for a coin without any mint mark under the date. Weigh it carefully. Examine the surface. Does it look slightly different, with an unusual shine or a grayish hue? Is the strike faint in certain areas? If so, you might just be holding one of the rarest coins ever made, and remember, condition matters. Even worn examples can fetch thousands, but pristine, well-preserved ones, especially those verified by top grading services, can easily break into the $1 million range. For collectors, this isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of discovery, the connection to history, and the dream that somewhere, in a forgotten jar of pennies, a miracle still waits to be found. So tonight, when you empty your pockets or open that old coin jar, take a closer look. Because one of those ordinary brown cents might not be so ordinary after all. It might be a 1942 no-mint mark Lincoln wheat penny, a coin worth $1.5 million.